Charlton Heston was more than just an actor. He was a Hollywood legend. From his unforgettable roles in the Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur to his commanding presence in Planet of the Apes, Heston carved out a career that spanned decades. But behind the iconic performances and larger-than-life persona lay a man whose personal life was marked by triumphs, controversies, and a tragic final chapter. How did this legendary figure rise to fame? And what mysteries surrounded his later years? This is the fascinating story of Charlton Heston, a man who left an indelible mark on Hollywood and beyond. Childhood. Charlton Heston was born on October 4th, 1923 in Wilmette, Illinois, a small town just north of Chicago. His birth name was John Charles Carter, but the world would come to know him by a much more commanding name. His parents, Leila and Russell Whitford Carter, were of English and Scottish descent, giving young Charlton a heritage deeply rooted in resilience and tradition. His father worked as a sawmill operator, a tough and physically demanding job, which likely influenced Heston's own strong work ethic later in life. When Charlton was still an infant, his father's work took the family to St. Helens, Michigan, a remote, heavily forested area that was worlds away from the bustling streets of Illinois. Life in St. Helens was simple, quiet, and deeply connected to nature. Unlike other children who grew up surrounded by the noise and distractions of city life, Charlton spent his early years in near solitude, exploring the backwoods, fishing in clear lakes, and hunting in the dense wilderness. This experience not only built his self-reliance, but also helped develop the commanding presence he would later bring to the screen. It's easy to see how these formative years in the wilderness played a crucial role in shaping the man he would become. The solitude gave him a deep sense of inner strength, and the rugged lifestyle taught him discipline and endurance. These qualities would serve him well in Hollywood, where resilience was just as important as talent, family. But Charlton's peaceful childhood didn't last forever. When he was just 10 years old, his parents divorced, an event that undoubtedly left a lasting impact on him. Divorce was far less common in the 1930s than it is today, and for a young boy watching his family split apart must have been difficult. However, his mother, Leila, soon remarried a man named Chester Heston. It was from this stepfather that Charlton took the last name Heston, the name that would later be etched into Hollywood history. Moving on from a broken home isn't easy for any child, but Charlton found solace in something that would change his life forever: acting. He attended New Trier High School, a well-known school in Illinois with a strong focus on the arts. It was here that he discovered his passion for drama. As a child, he had always been imaginative, often losing himself in the stories of the books he read. But now, he wasn't just imagining. He was bringing characters to life. At New Trier, Charlton immersed himself in school plays, quickly proving that he had an undeniable talent for the stage. He wasn't just reciting lines, he was transforming into the characters he portrayed, commanding attention even at a young age. His deep voice, strong presence, and intense commitment to his roles made him stand out among his peers. One of his earliest breakthroughs came in 1941 when he was cast in an amateur silent 16mm film adaptation of Peer Gynt, based on the famous play by Henrik Ibsen. This wasn't just a simple school project. It was a full-fledged production, shot as part of New Trier's drama program. The fact that Charlton was chosen for such a role at a young age speaks volumes about his talent. His performance was so impressive that it caught the attention of many, hinting at the greatness that lay ahead. But what made him so special? It wasn't just his talent, it was his presence. Even as a teenager, he had an ability to draw people in, to make them believe in the characters he portrayed. This raw ability, combined with his deep passion for acting, set him on a path that would eventually lead him to Hollywood's biggest stages. Charlton Heston's early years were a mix of solitude, self-discovery, and an early passion for storytelling. His childhood in the Michigan wilderness gave him strength, his parents' divorce taught him resilience, and his experiences in high school theater gave him purpose. It was clear from an early age that he was destined for something greater. Little did the world know, the boy from St. Helen, Michigan, who once roamed the backwoods with a rifle in hand, would one day stand before millions, parting the Red Sea as Moses and driving the chariots of Ben-Hur. Career Charlton's acting skills did not go unnoticed, and he was awarded a drama scholarship to Northwestern University. Here, he received training from several prominent teachers, including Alvina Krauss, who was known for her work in the theatrical arts. As World War II raged on, Charlton Heston felt a strong sense of duty to his country. In 1944, he enlisted in the United States Army Air Forces and was stationed in the Alaskan Aleutian Islands. Charlton served as a radio operator and aerial gunner aboard a B-25 Mitchell medium bomber and was a part of the 77th Bombardment Squadron of the 11th Air Force. His hard work and dedication earned him the rank of Staff Sergeant. After the war, Charlton returned home to his wife Lydia, and they settled in the bustling city of New York. Life was tough, and they made ends meet by working as artist models. But Charlton's passion for theater burned bright, and he was determined to make a name for himself in the industry. Together, Charlton and Lydia decided to take a bold step toward their dream. They managed a small playhouse in Asheville, North Carolina, in 1947, where they earned $100 a week. It was a meager sum, but they poured their hearts and souls into the work, determined to make it a success. In 1948, Charlton Heston and his wife returned to New York City, where they hoped to continue pursuing their dreams in theater. Heston was offered a supporting role in a Broadway revival of Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, alongside the famous actress Katharine Cornell. Meanwhile, in the world of television, Heston began to make a name for himself with several roles in Columbia Broadcasting System's Studio One, which was one of the most popular anthology dramas of the 1950s. Despite his success on stage and screen, Heston's first professional movie appearance did not come until he was 26 years old. He landed a leading role in Dark City, a 1950 film noir produced by Hal Wallace. However, it was Heston's role as a circus manager in The Greatest Show on Earth that truly launched his career. Directed by Cecil B. DeMille, the film was named Best Picture of 1952 by the Motion Picture Academy and became the most popular movie of the year. This breakthrough role led to many more opportunities for Heston in Hollywood. In 1954, Charlton Heston made 2 adventure films for Paramount Pictures. In The Naked Jungle, he played the lead character who had to fight a plague of killer ants. The Secret of the Incas, another adventure film, was shot on location at Machu Picchu and had many similarities to Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was released a quarter of a century later. He then starred in The Far Horizons, 1955, alongside Fred MacMurray as Meriwether Lewis, playing William Clark, the explorer. He later tried his hand at comedy in The Private War of Major Benson, 1955, at Universal Studios, and played a supporting role in the drama Lucy Gallant, 1955, alongside Jane Wyman. Charlton Heston became an iconic figure for his portrayal of Moses in the hugely successful biblical epic The Ten Commandments, 1956. Directed by Cecil B. DeMille, The Ten Commandments was one of the highest-grossing films of all time and remains one of the greatest box office successes in history. Heston's performance as the Hebrew prophet and deliverer received widespread praise from film critics. As an accomplished actor, Heston continued to work on several films in the 1960s. He starred in The Pigeon That Took Rome, 1962, and Diamond Head, 1963, both of which were produced by Samuel Bronston. However, his next epic film, 55 Days at Peking, 1963, did not perform well at the box office. In 1965, Heston took on a new role as the president of the Screen Actors Guild, a position he held until 1971. The Guild had been established in 1933 to represent the interests of actors who had different concerns from the producers and directors who controlled the Academy of Motion, Picture Arts, and Sciences. Heston was known to be more conservative than most actors and frequently clashed with liberal actors such as Ed Asner. Despite not having a major hit in several years, Heston's career received a much-needed boost in 1968 when he starred in the science fiction film Planet of the Apes, directed by Franklin J. Schaffner. The film was a box office success and helped to reestablish Heston as a leading actor in Hollywood. Charlton Heston once again portrayed Mark Antony in another film adaptation of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. His co-stars included Richard Chamberlain, Jason Robards, and Diana Rigg. The cast also featured Robert Vaughn as Casca and English actors Richard Johnson as Cassius and John Gielgud as Caesar. Afterward, Heston starred in the science fiction film The Omega Man, which was popular but received mixed reviews from critics. During this time, he also became an advocate for gun rights. In 1972, Heston made his directorial debut in an adaptation of Antony and Cleopatra, the Shakespeare play he had performed earlier in his theater career. He also starred in the film as Mark Antony, with Hildegard Neal as Cleopatra and Eric Porter as Enobarbus. However, the film received negative reviews and was never released in theaters. It remains a rare find on television. Charlton Heston's successful run at the box office came to an end in the late 1970s with the release of 2 Minute Warning, 1976, a disaster film, and The Last Hard Men, 1976, a Western. However, he continued to work in the film industry, playing King Henry VIII in The Prince and The Pauper, 1977, and starring in another disaster film, Grey Lady Down, 1978. In the mid-1980s, Heston made his only primetime television appearance on the soap opera The Colbys from 1985 until 1987. He also produced and starred in several TV movies with his son Fraser, including remakes of Treasure Island and A Man for All Seasons. In 1992, Heston made a brief appearance on the A&E cable network in a series of videos called Charlton Heston Presents the Bible, where he read passages from the King James Version. In addition to his work in film and television, Heston narrated various documentaries, including Hercules, 1997, and Armageddon, 1998. During his later years, Heston served as the president of the National Rifle Association, NRA, from 1998 to 2003. Controversies and Political Views. Charlton Heston wasn't just a Hollywood legend. He was a man unafraid to stand by his beliefs, even when they put him at odds with his peers. Throughout his life, Heston's political views evolved dramatically, making him one of the most controversial figures in the entertainment industry. While many remember him for his commanding performances in the Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur, others recall the impassioned speeches, heated debates, and firm stances that cemented his status as a polarizing public figure. It may surprise some that early in his career, Heston was actually known for his progressive activism. In the 1960s, at the height of the civil rights movement, he was one of the few Hollywood stars who openly supported racial equality. Unlike many celebrities who hesitated to take a stand, Heston boldly marched alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1963 March on Washington, the very event where Dr. King delivered his historic I Have a Dream speech. He also participated in picket lines protesting against segregation in the film industry. At the time, Hollywood was still deeply entrenched in racial discrimination, and Heston's willingness to speak out showed both courage and conviction. But as the years went on, his political views shifted dramatically. By the 1980s and 1990s, Heston had moved firmly into the conservative camp, becoming an outspoken critic of liberal policies and aligning himself with right-wing causes. This transformation shocked some of his former civil rights allies and even led to clashes with old Hollywood friends who no longer saw him as the progressive figure he once was. If there was one issue that truly defined Charlton Heston's later years, it was his staunch defense of the Second Amendment. In 1998, he took on the role of president of the National Rifle Association, NRA, a position that would make him one of the most controversial celebrities in America. The NRA, already a powerful lobbying force, gained even greater visibility under Heston's leadership. He wasn't just a spokesperson, he became the face of the modern gun rights movement. His speeches at NRA conventions were nothing short of theatrical. He would often speak with the same commanding voice and dramatic intensity that made him a Hollywood star. But nothing was more famous or infamous than his "From My Cold Dead Hands" speech. Holding up a rifle at an NRA convention, he declared that gun control advocates would have to pry it from his lifeless fingers before he would give up his right to bear arms. That single phrase became a rallying cry for gun rights activists and a symbol of resistance against gun control legislation. But his hardline stance on guns also alienated many in Hollywood. The entertainment industry was, and still is, largely liberal, and Heston's unwavering support for gun rights put him at odds with many fellow actors, directors, and producers. He clashed with liberal stars like Ed Asner and George Clooney, both of whom were vocal about stricter gun control laws. Some industry professionals even distanced themselves from Heston altogether, viewing him as a relic of an older, more conservative Hollywood. As NRA president, Heston wasn't just debating policies. He was shaping the national conversation. His tenure coincided with some of America's most high-profile gun violence tragedies, including the Columbine High School massacre in 1999. In the aftermath of the shooting, Michael Moore's documentary Bowling for Columbine harshly criticized Heston's pro-gun advocacy, portraying him as out of touch and insensitive. Moore even confronted Heston in his own home, pressing him on why he continued to promote gun rights despite the growing number of mass shootings. The documentary painted Heston in a negative light, and for many younger audiences, it became their first introduction to the once revered actor, not as Moses or Ben-Hur, but as a stubborn, aging gun rights advocate. The fallout was intense, and while Heston remained steadfast in his beliefs, his public image took a significant hit. Marriage and personal life. In an industry where relationships often crumble under the weight of fame, power, and temptation, Charlton Heston's marriage to Lydia Clark stood as a shining exception. Married for over 6 decades, their bond endured the highs and lows of stardom, personal struggles, and even the shifting tides of public opinion. But what made their relationship so special? How did they manage to stay together when so many Hollywood couples fell apart? Let's take a closer look at the remarkable marriage of Charlton Heston and Lydia Clark. Long before Heston became a household name, he was just another ambitious young actor with dreams of making it big. He met Lydia Clark while they were both students at Northwestern University, where he was studying drama and she was pursuing her passion for for the arts. Their connection was instant, and soon their love grew into something strong enough to withstand the unpredictable journey ahead. Unlike many Hollywood marriages that begin after fame and fortune, Charlton and Lydia's relationship was built on a foundation of shared dreams and struggles. When they married in 1944, Heston was still far from being a movie star. In fact, just months after their wedding, World War II was in full swing, and Heston enlisted in the United States Army Air Forces. For 2 years, the couple endured a long-distance marriage while Heston served as a radio operator and aerial gunner aboard a B-25 Mitchell bomber in the Aleutian Islands. The separation was difficult, but it also strengthened their bond. Lydia waited for him, supporting him from afar, knowing that their love would survive the challenges ahead. After the war, the newlyweds faced financial struggles as Charlton pursued acting with little success. At one point, they even worked as artist models in New York just to make ends meet, but Lydia never wavered in her support. When Heston's career finally took off, she remained by his side, not as a woman living in his shadow, but as an equal partner in his journey. Lydia was more than just Charlton Heston's wife. She was an actress, photographer, and a woman of immense strength. While she appeared in a few acting roles, including a part in The Atomic City, 1952, she found her true passion behind the camera. As a photographer, she traveled the world capturing breathtaking images, including powerful portraits of her husband. One of the secrets to their lasting marriage was the way Lydia balanced being both his biggest supporter and his greatest critic. Heston often credited her with keeping him grounded, reminding him of the things that truly mattered beyond Hollywood's flashing lights. She wasn't afraid to challenge him, to call him out when necessary, and to remind him of the importance of family over fame. Despite his demanding career, Heston was deeply devoted to his family. The couple had 2 children, Fraser and Holly, and unlike many Hollywood stars who often let their careers overshadow their personal lives, Heston prioritized fatherhood. Fraser, their son, followed in his father's footsteps, becoming a filmmaker and writer. In fact, Charlton and Fraser worked together on several projects, including remakes of classic films like Treasure Island. Their bond was evident both on and off the set, proving that Heston wasn't just a Hollywood icon. He was also a loving and involved father. But balancing a high-profile career with family life wasn't always easy. There were times when Heston's political activism and career choices led to public scrutiny, putting additional pressure on his family. His controversial role as president of the NRA, for example, made him a target for criticism. But through it all, Lydia remained his rock, standing by his side even when the world seemed against him. As the years passed, Heston faced his greatest battle yet: Alzheimer's disease. In 2002, he publicly announced that he had symptoms consistent with the illness, and over the following years, his health steadily declined. Through it all, Lydia never left his side. She cared for him with unwavering devotion, ensuring that he was surrounded by love and dignity in his final years. Many who knew them personally said that her presence was his greatest comfort, even when his memories began to fade. Charlton and Lydia's marriage was more than just a Hollywood romance. It was a testament to loyalty, perseverance, and true love. In an industry where relationships often burn bright and fade fast, theirs stood the test of time. Their story proves that behind even the most legendary stars, there is often an even greater force: the love and support of someone who believes in them unconditionally. Their love story wasn't perfect, but it was real. And in the world of Hollywood, that's rarer than any blockbuster film. Final years and death: Charlton Heston spent his life commanding the screen with his towering presence, deep voice, and unwavering commitment to his craft. But in his final years, he faced a battle that no script could have prepared him for, a slow and heartbreaking decline due to Alzheimer's disease. It was a stark contrast to the heroic, larger-than-life roles he had played. Yet even in the face of illness, Heston handled it with grace, dignity, and quiet strength. In August 2002, at the age of 78, Heston made a rare and deeply personal announcement. Standing before cameras, he revealed that he had been diagnosed with symptoms consistent with Alzheimer's disease, a progressive neurodegenerative condition that affects memory and cognitive abilities. With his signature poise, he delivered a heartfelt statement saying, "I must reconcile courage and surrender in equal measure." For a man who had spent his life portraying the strongest of historical and fictional figures, Moses, Judah Ben-Hur, and even the last man on earth in the Omega Man, this was a deeply moving moment. Heston, known for his commanding presence and sharp mind, was now facing an enemy that even the strongest could not defeat. After his announcement, he slowly withdrew from public life, making fewer and fewer appearances. His final years were spent in the quiet sanctuary of his Beverly Hills home, surrounded by his family. On April 5th, 2008, at the age of 84, Charlton Heston passed away in his home. The news of his passing sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, marking the end of an era. Heston was one of the last true stars of Hollywood's golden age, a time when actors weren't just performers, they were icons. His death wasn't just the loss of a legendary actor, it was the closing chapter of a cinematic legacy that had spanned more than 60 years. He had worked with some of the greatest directors of all time, starred in some of the most iconic films in history, and had left an impact on both Hollywood and American culture that few could rival. Many of his colleagues and admirers paid tribute, remembering him not only for his unforgettable performances, but also for his unshakable dedication to his beliefs and values. Former President George W. Bush described him as one of the most remarkable men to ever grace the silver screen. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences called him a towering figure in film history, and even those who disagreed with his political views respected the strength of his convictions. Though Charlton Heston is no longer with us, his legacy remains immortal. His performances in the Ten Commandments, Ben-Hur, and Planet of the Apes continue to be celebrated by new generations of film lovers. Even decades after his greatest films were released, they still captivate audiences worldwide. Who can forget the sight of Heston parting the Red Sea as Moses, racing in the breathtaking chariot scene in Ben-Hur, or delivering the unforgettable final lines in Planet of the Apes? Beyond the screen, Heston's influence extended far beyond Hollywood. Whether it was his work in civil rights, his leadership in the NRA, or his advocacy for the arts, he was never afraid to take a stand. He was a man of unwavering conviction, and whether people loved him or disagreed with him, no one could deny the impact he left on American culture. Charlton Heston wasn't just a Hollywood legend. He was a man who commanded both admiration and controversy, even among his peers. Throughout his career, he forged strong friendships and intense rivalries with some of the industry's biggest names, including Kirk Douglas, Marlon Brando, and Gregory Peck. While he and Douglas shared a deep mutual respect, their competitive nature often led to friendly clashes over roles and influence in Hollywood's golden era. On the other hand, Heston's relationship with Marlon Brando was far more complex. Brando, a known liberal, strongly opposed Heston's later political stance, yet both remained titans of their craft, shaping cinema in vastly different ways. Even among those who vehemently disagreed with his NRA advocacy, like George Clooney and Ed Asner, Heston was still respected for his unwavering convictions and his dedication to the craft of acting. He was not a man who shied away from conflict, but rather one who embraced the debate, standing firm in his beliefs even when they set him apart from the Hollywood elite. Charlton Heston wasn't just a man of the screen, he was a man of action, not only in his films but also in his dedication to causes beyond Hollywood. While many stars focus solely on their craft, Heston used his influence to preserve the legacy of cinema itself. He was instrumental in film restoration efforts, fighting to protect classic movies from deterioration, ensuring that future generations could experience the golden age of Hollywood in its full glory. His passion extended to education as well, frequently speaking at universities and film schools, inspiring young actors and filmmakers to approach the craft with discipline and integrity. Whether he was advocating for civil rights, defending gun ownership, or preserving cinematic history, one thing was clear. Heston never stood on the sidelines. He believed in taking a stand, a philosophy that defined both his career and his personal life. And though he may have left this world, his presence will never fade, as long as his films continue to inspire, entertain, and remind us of what it truly means to be larger than life. Charlton Heston's life was nothing short of extraordinary. From his early struggles in theater to becoming one of Hollywood's most legendary actors, he captivated audiences with his powerful performances. Yet, his outspoken political beliefs and later health struggles added layers of complexity to his story. Whether you admire him for his cinematic legacy or debate his controversial views, there's no denying that Charlton Heston was a force to be reckoned with. His roles in the Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur continue to inspire generations, ensuring that his name will never be forgotten. What are your thoughts on his life and legacy? Let us know in the comments below.